the world around you isn't quite as solid as fixed as you think it is? Seriously, what if just looking at something actually changes it, right down at its core? Today, we're doing a deep dive into something genuinely mind-bending. We're looking at how two fields you'd think are worlds apart, cutting-edge quantum physics and ancient Zen philosophy, how they offer surprisingly similar answers about reality itself.
That's exactly it. And our mission here really is to unpack these fascinating parallels. We're talking about the observer effect in quantum physics and this really profound Zen concept of emptiness, got to. And you'll see how both sort of suggest that reality. It's less about what's just out there, fixed and separate, and much more about how we interact with it, basically exploring this idea that seeing causes changing.
Okay. And we're drawing on some really interesting sources for this, right?
Yes, things like quantum observation and particle reality, quantum physics and Zen, converging realities, and a couple more focusing on this dynamic between observation, emptiness, and reality. It's rich territory.
It sounds it. So let's start with, well, what feels most solid usually, physics. Day to day, we think reality is stable, predictable. My coffee mug is just there, whether I look or not. It's got a shape, a place. Simple.
Right, that's our classical view.
Yeah.
Our everyday intuition.
But quantum physics, especially when you get down to the subatomic level, it just throws that whole idea out the window, doesn't it, with this observer effect?
Right.
How does that even work? You're down at that tiny scale.
Well, it's deeply counterintuitive, like you said. You have to picture things that are almost unimaginably small. Electrons, photons, the basic building blocks. Now, when these particles are just doing their thing, not being watched, not being measured, they aren't just a single dot in a single place.
Okay, so what are they then?
They exist in what physicists call a superposition. It's better to think of it as waves of possibility, like ripples spreading out, representing all the places the particle could be, all the states it could be in simultaneously.
Like a ghost of possibilities, not a definite thing yet. That's weird.
It is weird. And here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you do observe them or measure them, those waves of possibility just poof, they instantly collapse into a definite particle.
Collapse?
Yeah, collapse. It's like all those spread out ripples suddenly decide, okay, I'm this droplet right here.
Yeah.
The classic example everyone talks about is the double slit experiment.
Yes, I've heard of that one.
Right. So you fire particles towards a barrier with two slits. If you don't watch which slit they go through, they act like waves. They interfere with each other, creating a specific pattern on the other side.
Okay, wave behavior.
Right. If you put detectors at the slits to see which one each particle goes through,
then you're observing them.
Exactly. And the moment you do, they stop acting like waves. They behave like little billiard balls going through one slit or the other. The interference pattern vanishes. Just the act of watching, of interacting, fundamentally changes how they behave and what they are in that moment.
So a particle doesn't have a definite reality until we poke it, essentially, until we measure it. That implies reality isn't just sitting there preformed. It kind of becomes real through interaction.
That's the mind-bending implication, yes. Its state is not determined until observed. Before that, it's just probability.
Wow. Does physics have anything to say about what counts as an observation? Does it have to be a conscious person looking, or just any interaction?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And physicists still debate it fiercely. Some interpretations lean towards consciousness playing a role. Others say any physical interaction, even with a machine, is enough to cause the collapse. For our purposes today, the key thing is this inherent uncertainty before observation. That's baked into quantum mechanics.
Yeah.
Reality at that level isn't fixed beforehand.
Okay, so from quantum weirdness, let's pivot. Let's go from subatomic particles to ancient Zen philosophy. Seems like a huge leap. How could Zen possibly connect with this? But you mentioned this idea of emptiness or ku. Does that offer a similar view of a less fixed reality?
It absolutely does, and in a surprisingly parallel way. In Zen, there's this core understanding. Seeing causes changing. It sounds poetic, but it's meant quite literally as a description of how things function. And emptiness, ku, is central to this. But it's crucial. Ku doesn't mean nothingness, like a void.
Right, not just absence.
No, it means nothing exists in isolation. Everything arises and exists because of its relationships with everything else.
Okay, so things don't have their own independent, standalone existence.
Exactly, which means fixed things do not exist in an inherent sense. Their identity, their meaning, isn't baked into them. It changes based on perspective and relationships.
Can you give an example? That sounds a bit abstract.
Sure. Think about, well, yourself. Your sense of self, as one of our sources points out. This self cannot exist without relationships with others. Who are you? You're a child in relation to your parents, a friend to your friends, an employee to your boss, a citizen in your community. Your self shifts depending on the relationship, the context.
Ah, okay. I'm not just me in a vacuum. My me-ness is defined by how I connect.
Precisely. And that applies to everything. As Yuno puts it in one source, how you see changes how the world appears. Your perspective, your relationship to the thing, whether it's a coffee cup, an idea, or another person, shapes its reality for you.
So back to my coffee mug. It's not just intrinsically mug. Its mugness comes from its relationship to coffee, to me drinking from it, maybe to the person who gave it to me.
Exactly. Ku, or emptiness, signifies that blankness of inherent existence. There's no fixed, independent substance defining things from the inside out. And here's the key part. Because things are empty, in this relational sense, they are free to freely change. They aren't locked down.
Fluidity, constant change, because nothing is pinned down by its own isolated nature.
You got it. That's the Zen view of reality, dynamic, interconnected, and shaped by perception.
Okay, this is where it really clicks together, isn't it? We've got quantum physics saying reality isn't fixed until observed, particles existing as probabilities, and Zen saying nothing exists in isolation, everything arises through relationships, and seeing causes changing. Let's explicitly connect the dots. What are the main parallels? Where do they really echo each other?
Right, let's boil it down. I think there are 4 really striking points of convergence.
Okay, lay them on us.
First, the role of observation. This is huge. Both quantum physics and Zen say that observation or perception plays a crucial role in shaping or determining reality. It's not just passively receiving information about a pre-existing world. Kenzo's point, observing changes particle behavior, mirrors Zen's seeing causes changing. Observation determines reality in a sense.
So the observer isn't separate from the observed. They're intertwined in the very creation of what's real in that moment.
Exactly. That leads to the second point. Reality is not fixed, it's dynamic. Both viewpoints fundamentally challenge the premise that the world is absolutely fixed. They blow it up. Instead, they see reality as constantly changing and fluid, always in motion. Quantum particles as probability, Zen's things being free to freely change because they are empty.
So forget solid as a rock. Everything's more like a flowing river, constantly shifting.
A great analogy. Third, reality emerges through interaction or relationships. It's not out there waiting. It arises or comes into being right now, in the present, through interaction or relationships. Quantum physics says reality emerges from the interaction of observation. Zen says reality arises in the here and now within these relationships. It's not some outside thing.
So it's participatory. We're involved in reality unfolding moment by moment through how we connect and interact. It's not a static snapshot.
Precisely. It's a co-creation. And that brings us to the fourth parallel, which I find really powerful. Uncertainty is freedom.
How so? Uncertainty usually feels unsettling.
Well, both frameworks suggest that this very lack of fixedness, this uncertainty, is actually this space where creation and freedom reside. The quantum particle's uncertainty before observation allows for potential. Zen's emptiness means things aren't predetermined, they can freely change. It's a possibility.
So if things were absolutely fixed, there'd be no room for change, no room for creativity, no real freedom. The uncertainty is the space where potential exists.
You've nailed it. That inherent, not yet defined quality is what allows for new things to arise.
So wrapping this up a bit, what's the big takeaway here? Synthesizing these ideas from Kenzo, Yuno, and the physics, it seems like both science and ancient wisdom are telling us to fundamentally rethink the world. They dismantle the notion of an absolutely fixed world, and they emphasize that what we experience as reality arises right now within these present relationships, these interactions.
That's the core message. And it has profound implications, doesn't it? If the world is not fixed, if observation determines reality, even if observation means interaction or relationship rather than just conscious looking, then it gives us, as individuals, incredible freedom. The freedom to choose how to see.
How we frame things, how we relate to them.
Exactly. This isn't just high-level physics or abstract philosophy. It applies right down to your daily life. How you approach a problem, how you interact with people, how you see yourself.
Right.
It suggests you have agency. You're not just a passive recipient of a fixed world. You're an active participant in shaping your experience.
So there it is, a pretty radical thought, really. The world isn't fixed. Reality is dynamic, constantly changing, and it emerges through relationships, through interaction, through how you engage with it. This deep dive suggests it's not just about what you see out there, but how you see, how you relate that truly shapes the world that appears to you.
Makes you think, doesn't it?
It really does. So maybe take a moment to consider that in your own life. How might shifting your perspective, your way of seeing, change your reality? Perhaps that very uncertainty we often find uncomfortable. Maybe that's actually the field where all the interesting stuff, all the creation and freedom truly happens.